I do want to bring in Yahoo Sports' senior betting analyst. Who better than the great Ben Fawkes, formerly of The Athletic, ESPN, USA Today, Vision, Sports Betting Network, Brooklyn Zone, to join us right here in studio to talk about this massive story. There he is. Ben is here. Please, Ben, welcome. This is fantastic. Who would have thought? Hello, Ben.
How are we doing?
How are you?
Good.
Please have a seat. What's so great about this is usually at the end of the show, and please don't mind my Toronto Blue Jays shrine here on the desk.
You're all good.
What's so great about this is usually at the end of the show, I'll walk to the other side of the office here to get a snack or two because the real ones know that the better snack room is...
Of course.
And you sit there and you're usually the only one left and we'll chit-chat about the Blue Jays or the Bills, and now here we are talking about this massive story.
Yeah, you got to go where the executives have the snacks, right?
That's
That's where the top ones are going to be. Yeah, how are you doing with the Blue Jays too? If the Bills lost, I didn't know if you were going to show up today.
Matt Prater hit that,
hit the doink.
Yeah. And I was questioning everything.
Yeah,
it was a tough 24 hours. I lived through 13 seconds.
Yep.
We had 22.
You're here to tell about it. Yeah.
22 seconds, no timeouts. And they needed a touchdown, not a field goal, so it was a little different. But yes, I was sweating it, and I was questioning everything.
Yeah,
At that same time, here's New York Rick coming back to crack the whip. Is it about the microphone?
You gotta straighten the laptop screen.
Oh, because we could see his screen, or what is it? Or he's covering the shot? Oh, there we go. They run a tight ship here. Is that good?
And then we gotta
just walk in here, help him out.
Yeah,
everyone knows you, Rick. You're not a stranger. You usually sit in this desk. If you want to get rid of the jersey, if it's bothering you. Is it bothering you?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Is that good for you, Rick? At the same time, the Knicks were losing to the Bulls in Game 5 of the regular season or 6, so a lot of bad things were happening. But we're not here to talk about all of that. Although I did see, by the way, it said the Jays had a 91% chance of winning by the time the top of the ninth. Is it something like that?
Sounds right. Yeah. We don't need a rehash.
We don't need to rehash. Okay. You're Yahoo Sports' senior betting analyst. Did I get that title right? Yep. So that's why I wanted to have you on because, you can have people who are maybe working for the books or stuff like that, but you look at all of this from a journalistic perspective. Also, by the way, if you could tell the audience, how long have you been doing this particular role, looking at sports gambling and whatnot?
Yes, I've been at Yahoo since March and then have been doing sports gambling in some capacity since 2010 for 10 years at ESPN.
Wow. That long, huh?
Yeah. So I was working with Chad Millman and editing his podcast, and then we launched ESPN Chalk, the first sports betting section on kind of a mainstream, media site, and then was out in Vegas at VSiN and now at Yahoo. So a lot of sports betting over a lot of years pre-legalization and then now post-legalization as well.
And I saw you get mentioned on McAfee's show. You were on Rome's show. I mean, talk about going from the penthouse to the outhouse here on the Ariel Helwani Show. But we do appreciate it. Okay, so let's talk about this Dulgarian-Del Valle fight.
Yep.
No chance you were even paying attention to this. I mean, it's Game 7 of the World Series, very much under the radar. But as we've chronicled throughout the day, about an hour before the fight, some interesting, maybe questionable stuff is starting to happen. What do you know? What can you tell us from your perspective? Because I just want to hear you talk about it. What do you know about this story?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a very brief summary, right?
Yep.
So obviously legalization, May 2018, up until October 2022, UFC fighters were allowed to bet on themselves, right? So that's something very different than MLB and other sports, obviously.
Who are never allowed.
Right. Every sport's a little different in terms of whether you can bet on other sports, professional sports, things like that. But your sport, you can't do that. Fighting, a little different. Obviously also different because you're the one controlling the outcome. It's not a team sport, just one person. So that happens in October. In November, that November 5th fight in 2022, that is the Derek Minner, and you'll have to help me with the opponent, Shailene.
I want to hear you try.
Nurdan Bieke.
Not bad. Nurdan Becky.
There you go.
Not bad.
So that was another case, right, where we saw, and this was connected to the trainer, James Krause, where basically the odds moved a ton before the fight. And in this case, it was moving towards the favorite. And same thing, a lot of favorite to win in round one. And then that's exactly what happened. That fight, again, there was an alert sent out. There was an investigation, which I believe is still ongoing. And that kind of was, I guess, one of the first ones, right? That was a big event. Something kind of was similar that we saw on Saturday. So Saturday morning, some sports books I spoke with took large bets basically on Del Valle. to win.
Who's the underdog?
Who's the underdog,
Yep.
right? So again, nothing necessarily off about that. People have some sort of opinion. That's totally fine. But there are also kind of some on new accounts, right? Accounts that didn't have any other bets on them. Some that were on account, right? Sportsbooks keep track of everything. So they know what accounts are doing well, not doing well. Some sharp accounts, they then had been dormant for a while. All of a sudden, they were also betting.
When you say
the same
sharp,
thing.
sorry, I love all these terms. What
Yep.
does that mean? What does sharp account mean?
So, in other words, an account that usually wins, that's making money.
Okay.
Sportsbooks know, right? This is your record on every sport because they track every single bet. So that sets off some red flags. A lot of bets as well going for just who's going to win in the first round and Delvalle winning in the first round. So that sets off some red flags. Some of those bets are reported to gaming and compliance. Basically, at around 3 p.m., an alert goes out from one of the Eastern, one of the integrity service monitoring services, right? So sportsbooks are partnered with these services. Basically, they're also checking out who's betting on what, and they're saying, wait a second, for this type of fight, that's a lot of action on one side, right? That's odd. And so that comes out. Some sports books close the fight then. That's it. Some keep it open. And then as the ones that kept it open, you saw that massive line movement in the hours before where I think it was around a minus 230 favorite, goes to minus 150.
Is this consistent with what you've heard? This is
yes.
from...
I think that's from Best Fight Odds or FightOdds.com. And so there's a couple things, right?
Can I just ask one thing about what you just said? You just said some will close it, some left it open.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who close it, do they refund? Do they say we want nothing to do with this fight, or do they just say like all bets final now?
I think it depends on the book.
Okay.
A good question. So one book I talked to, right, they took a bet from, again, a respected person. The person actually wanted more money than they let them bet on that. And that was Delvalle just to win, not in the first round. After that alert went out, they went back to the bettor because, again, there's someone they know, they respect. They said, listen, an alert came out about this bet. Like, you can keep it, but, you know, there could be ramifications down the road. That person checked in with some other of their associates. They actually canceled the bet.
Wow.
They said, we don't want to be associated with it. They basically were saying, we don't know that anything's going on. And obviously the bookmaker didn't press them where they got that information from. But that was one bet that was just canceled. I think the other bets are probably just held. They're not paid out, and those are put towards, you know, compliance and regulators, and they'll see what ends up happening and what they find for those specific bets. But basically what's odd when you have that line movement is that there's always a point of resistance, right? So bettors are betting because they have an edge, right? They say, you know, whatever, it's Bills plus 2.5. They think the line should be plus 3. There's value other way, but they think there's value on that specific line. But once you get to a point, there isn't value, right? They're going to stop betting it. On this specific thing, bettors are just betting the underdog, and they're continually betting the underdog. And that's why the line keeps moving, and they're still betting the underdog, and no one is coming in on the other side. And that's where the suspicions start to get raised. This has happened in college basketball games last year as well. Like, when no one is betting the other side, that's a problem. An example would be like the NFL game, right? The Panthers are plus 13.5 against the Packers. Big spread. If that line gets to 14, 14.5, 15, 17, at some point, sharps are going to bet the Panthers. There's too much value unless there's something unknown in the market, right? And if that is that there's something going on with the fight and you can't lose, so that it doesn't matter what price you have. If you bet plus 200, plus 180, plus 150, it's just a question of how much money you're winning. That's where
and there's no activity coming in on Dulgarian at this point. It's all one-sided for the dog.
Right. Now, I don't want to say 100%.
But it's like a tidal wave.
Majority, exactly.
And it's specific, right? It's first round submission.
There was a lot of first round, and then there was a lot of just to win.
Okay,
what they call the
but
money
both will win.
Right. But there was that first round, I think, dropped from like plus 850 to plus 475, which is also a big
guy who's never
move.
lost via first round anything. He's never been stopped.
Right.
By the way, why wouldn't these people like just sprinkle a little bit here to sort of try to offset it, you know, like to hedge a little bit, just not as much, but so that it doesn't seem so obvious?
You could, because people are greedy. And that's basically what it ultimately comes down to. And that's where a lot of the integrity comes in, because there's just all that money on one side. And then someone told their cousin, and then someone told this family member, and then they opened up that account. and all of a sudden they might have only told 3 people, and now there's 50. This clearly went a lot of places. Information travels quickly in the gambling community. People knew something was up, and people either stayed away from the fight or said, hey, I think this is a free bingo square. And a lot of people are betting $50, $100, right? Doing what they call chasing steam. If the line's moving that quickly, they figure somebody knows something, let me follow that.
Okay.
It's not like they would have bet the fight before, but they figure, hey, this line's moving, somebody knows something.
Okay.
I'm going to get in on that. And some people are like, I'm just staying away.
Right. Okay, so then what happens? This is like around, we're now at like 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so then basically some books close it,
Yeah.
some books keep it open. You get that betting pattern I talked about, and then the fight goes on. Obviously, it goes kind of the way of the betting, right? He wins in the first round. I'm not a UFC expert, but apparently, the post-game commentary was like, well, this seems a little suspicious, right? It didn't kind of pass the smell test. And I think what's interesting as well that I can't remember seeing is 2 books, Caesars and William Hill, tweeted that they were refunding losing bets on the fight. Now, sports books have started to do this with either bad beats or injuries.
What's a bad beat? What does that mean?
So a bad beat meaning, let's say if the Bills somehow had lost that game, like that, the Bills should be the right side. They probably should have won, but they ended up losing right at the end.
They'll do it for that, even though it's fair and square.
Correct.
Really?
Correct. So this has been
Is this like a PR thing?
Exactly.
Interesting.
This has gone all the way back. If you remember that New Orleans Saints Rams championship game where the Saints wide receiver got decked, the Rams end up going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. Was clearly pass interference, didn't get called.
Yes.
I believe Fanatics started kind of that as like a bad beat insurance. Now a
this
lot of
happen
sports
often?
books do it. More often probably than it should.
If I would have bet on the Blue Jays, would I have gotten a bad beat refund? No.
Possibly.
No,
Possibly.
it was
No.
just 4-3.
No.
But okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they'll do that, or now a lot of sports books will do for an injury, right? Anthony Edwards goes out in the first quarter because he pulls his hamstring. Any props relating to Anthony Edwards, you get refunded.
Yep.
That type of thing.
Okay.
But I've never seen sports books do that.
Wow.
This was still a fight. It was a fight that went on. It was a fight where there was an outcome, and they're refunding the losing bets. And they, haven't responded to a statement as to why that is. There's obviously, as you can imagine, a lot of reaching out to a lot of sports books, a lot of no comments, and keeping
Why wouldn't
it
they
moving,
comment?
but-
Just out of curiosity, because in your opinion, like they want nothing to do with this. So I think Caesars and William Hill are handling it great, right? They're saying we're washing our hands of this situation. Why? I've seen DraftKings say we're not doing anything at this time. I don't know what FanDuel has said. BetMGM, you may know.
I think also haven't commented.
Yeah.
I think some of it's just figuring out what to say first and then figuring it out. And also, this happened on a Saturday night, and probably what was good for them, right? What was on Sunday? The NFL.
Also,
right?
Game 7 of the World Series.
And Game 7 was Saturday night. So this was definitely under the radar.
Yeah.
And I think unless you're really a true, this wasn't even a pay-per-view, right?
No.
So how many people are
was
watching
very under the radar.
right, and care about that fight?
Right.
But the money always talks, and that's the same thing with the integrity monitors, everything else. They see these are specific betting patterns. There's only so many things it can be.
So then what happens?
So now we're here, and basically some of those sports books have refunded those wagers. The UFC gave a statement on Monday to ESPN, basically just saying that they work with an independent integrity service, which is IC360.
Do you know them?
I've heard of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does every league have this?
Every league is partnered with one of them, if not all of them.
Okay.
So I can't necessarily say that every sports book got this alert at 3 p.m., but several of them did. The UFC definitely knew they received this alert. They're all partnered with all the monitoring services. They're basically just saying, we're doing a thorough review of the facts surrounding the fight. They take the allegation seriously, and nothing's more important than the integrity of the sport. So kind of a boilerplate comment, as you would expect. And I think now it's kind of in the hands of, gaming and compliance and regulators and local and state authorities to see what kind of happens from here.
Right.
And we'll see. But it's just a wild story on the heels of, obviously, the NBA indictments and everything else.
And Dulgarian got cut yesterday.
As you reported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Did he have any fights remaining on his
Oh,
contract?
yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is like he was a good prospect. Like everyone spoke very highly of him. Only one loss, 3-1 going into that fight. Not your typical guy. Like even if he loses that fight, he's still 3-2. He's got a above 500 record. But they don't usually cut like on a Sunday morning that quickly unless something controversial happens.
Right.
Or they've just had enough of a guy. But like I don't think he would be your prototypical guy. So I think they want to wash their hands of this situation.
Yeah, and
Rightfully
I believe Kash Patel ringside as well.
He's a big fan. He's a big fan.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like he was very out in the open, regarding the NBA investigation at that press conference. What do you think? Do you think they go hard in the paint here to steal a pun? Because I mean, how do you not look into this?
Oh, they definitely will be looking into it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think pretty much everything generally comes out, right? We saw that a little bit with the NBA, where the NBA basically was saying we can only do so much, whereas the FBI has a lot more powers,
Sure,
and things that they can do. So depending on what level it gets to, obviously, sports leagues and the UFC don't want to be talking about this. You want to be talking about the actual sport and the cards and the fighters, but things like this, especially with the internet, with legalization, with integrity monitoring, they don't go under the radar in the same way they might have 10 years ago, where this is a local bookie or they heard from someone's friend that, hey, something was up. Like, these things happen. They look off potentially. In this case, there also is a lot of money on that side, and it was alerted, and kind of all the steps you would hope with legalization would happen. And again, the benefit, right, of having all that money above board. But ultimately, people are greedy. And that's kind of a question of, is it, again, bad actors, something more? This is the same thing with the NBA, where what is the root cause? I think we're hopeful it's just a couple of players, and whether in debt, something else. But it's unfortunate to more of my job than I'd like it. The last couple of weeks has been, figuring these cases out, reading indictments, as opposed to figuring out, what we're doing on the field or in the ring.
The fun stuff, yeah. If you're a company like DraftKings, a book, BetMGM, FanDuel, etc., is there enough now to say, like, because of all these people came in and hammered the underdog, so they're losing money, right? As a result. Is there enough now to be like, yo, we're voiding this and you're not getting your money, like we're not paying this out, or can they not do that now?
I think it's a book by book, state by state.
Is there any sort of precedent for that?
I'm sure there is. I can't think of one off the top.
I would imagine you'd have a lot of pissed off people. Like if all of a sudden, if you put down $1,000 because you were just some dude on Twitter who was following this and like, let me get in on this, right? You really had nothing to do. You're just like an innocent bystander, but you're seeing something going on, and you were going to make, I don't know what the line was. Let's say it was like plus 400 or something like that at that point. Now you're making a pretty penny. Can they cancel that and take the money back?
I think probably if it's deemed that it wasn't
so it's too soon now
fair
for that.
fight. Yeah.
Okay.
But ultimately, if it was, let's just, I don't want to speculate, but if it was a fighter and he told a couple people and they're the only people who actually had inside information, there's a lot of people just riding the coattails who didn't know anything, then theoretically you could void everyone's bets. A lot of people don't know anything. They're just betting on that. Or some people might have just liked him to win.
Right.
It's not. So it's not everyone together. That being said, you also can't parse through necessarily all of those different bets. So it probably will be a more sweeping thing at some point. But I think they're just figuring out what to do. And right now it's kind of take the wagers, report to compliance, and wait.
I'm asking you very specific questions here that may be impossible to answer. And it's probably because I don't know enough about this world. But would anyone ever be able to know like how much money was bet on this particular prop bet, like first round submission?
You could stitch it together by sportsbook.
By sportsbook,
right?
Okay.
So now
do
again,
sportsbooks even say that? Like, do they reveal that? Do they say like
not publicly?
Not publicly.
Yeah,
okay.
But they'll know, and again, that's part of what sets off red flags, right? And same thing with the NBA with the Terry Rozier, right? Is for his under points, let's just say there's usually $50,000 nationwide bet on it, right? I'm making up a number. If all of a sudden there's $300,000 and it's $280,000 on the under, that's going to set off a lot of red flags. And I would imagine that's the same with this fight, right? If normally it has, we'll call it $100,000 on the fight.
Right.
And all of a sudden now there's $500,000 with the vast majority on one fighter and that fighter to win in the first round and that fighter's an underdog. That's where, I think there's those concerns come up. And unlike the other fight in 2022 when there was, I think, a potential injury, right? And that could be also a reason, should he have been fighting, et cetera. It doesn't seem like you would know better than I would. There's an injury. It just kind of seems like
a random thing.
Right. Something happened.
Right.
And that's also what we're dealing with in the NBA case, right? Is it one player who's manipulating, like Jonte Porter, their stats to go under versus, let's say, potentially a player like, or a former coach like Damon Jones telling somebody, hey, LeBron isn't playing tonight. They're giving inside information, right? But it's not a player manipulating.
Right.
So there are, I guess, levels to it as well. None of them are good, but there are somewhat levels, I guess.
One thing that always gets brought up when these stories happen is like I remember when ESPN was talking about the Billups Rozier story when it broke, and everyone's like, oh, look, there's an ESPN Bet logo, and then they like kind of slowly took it away.
Yep.
And there's this awkward dance that we're having to play now because everything is so legal. UFC, they have the lines right up there on the screen, like when they lower third the fighter in the cage. They were the first, I do believe, of the major sports organizations to really, and, they're Vegas-based and all that. It all kind of made sense. Do you think it's gone too far? Do you think they're going to have to peel back the sports leagues with all the advertising and all in the middle of the broadcast, they're talking prop bets. I mean, like Joe Davis before a World Series game is giving us like the parlay, the FanDuel parlay. It's surreal,
Yeah.
Do you think it's gone too far?
I think we have reached or will reach a tipping point. And you've seen this overseas, right? Like in England, they've had betting legalized far longer than we have. What happens? Eventually you hit some tipping point and there's restrictions on advertising or how much you can bet or proof of income or all these other things. We tend to go in the U.S. big, right? We go too quick probably. And those things are probably going to happen. It's the same thing with the NBA. Do you need to be able to bet on the props for, let's say, 13 out of the 15 guys on the roster? Probably not.
Right.
You could probably do the top 8, let's say, or 8 to 10, but the issue is those are what's powering same-game parlays. And that's how a lot of people are betting, and that's also their highest margin product. So sportsbooks are going to be reticent to get rid of those because that's their best selling. It's like telling a restaurant, don't sell alcohol when you're making the most money off of it. So I think there will be some pushback a little bit, but ultimately it's probably going to be leagues advising, saying, hey, we'd love it, sportsbooks, if you could do this. And then sportsbooks still have the choice, right? They want to be good partners, but just because the UFC says, hey, we want you to do this, they don't have to do it.
Okay.
It's more an advisement as opposed to something they have to do it.
And when you say tipping point, like what do you think eventually happens?
I think there'll just be less advertising.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, like sports betting.
You don't think it'll become illegal again?
No.
We're like the toothpaste is what? Like
Yeah. No, there's too much money, and I do think these cases are, again, it's a little weird that I think people associate now sports betting's legal. Now we're seeing a lot more of these cases, which is true. That's also because they're being caught. That doesn't mean they weren't happening pre-2018. But yeah, there's too much money. I think we'll just see a little reduction in advertising, a little reduction maybe in the betting menu. There's a lot to bet on, arguably too much stuff. I'm as big a fan, it's been my career that I kind of fell into. But at a certain point, we shouldn't be able to bet on the weather, right, and everything
you can do that.
under the world. Not on sports books, in other areas. But like at a certain point, it's too much, right?
Weather, really?
Elections. There's at a certain point, I think we'll be too far, and so we'll get there. It'll sort itself out, and ultimately, I think it's a little bit like a kid in a candy store, right? Where at some point you're going to get that stomach ache because you had all the candy. Like right now, it's amazing. We're eating from every single Sour Patch, Kit Kat, everything.
Did you ever think we'd get to this point?
Oh yeah.
You knew all along.
Because ultimately, they're also businesses, and businesses are going to try and incentivize to make money. That's why they're pushing parlays and all this other stuff. They're not going to be going, if they started small and pushed more into responsible gaming, that would be different. But we are where we are 7 years in, and now we have to kind of deal with the point where we are.
Right. Are you surprised? Like you mentioned it, I was told this as well. The UFC knew about this, and my understanding is they spoke to him beforehand. Like, is everything cool here? Cool. Why not just pull the fight? Like, why not just pull the plug on the fight so that you don't subject yourself as an organization? Nothing I've heard suggests that they were in on it in any way, shape, or form. But there's still now a black eye on the organization. It's a UFC fighter in the headline, all this stuff. Are you surprised they didn't do that?
It's a great question. It's one I asked specifically a bookmaker because I wanted to know.
Yeah.
And ultimately, with the basically the integrity monitors put out that alert, right, goes to the league, then it's up to the league. So it's up to their discretion. Now, you've also covered the UFC for a long time. I don't know if they've ever canceled a fight for a reason not, let's say that's an injury or something. So you're also calling a lot of attention, like whatever it is would come out, right? Because the first question is, why was that fight canceled? So in a way,
But isn't it better than to have a potential fixed fight on the card?
Potentially, although
In fact, I think it makes them look better. They'd be like, hey, we saw this and we pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Don't you ever try to do this
Yeah.
under our umbrella, no?
I think you could make that case. You could also make the case that it just came to light, and the fact it did go exactly how the money showed and how it looked like all these bets were kind of, and especially like you said, I'm not a UFC reporter, whether they talked to him beforehand and talked to both sides, like you have then no kind of benefit of the doubt if you were warned beforehand, let's say, and then there was all this money, and then it went exactly according to how that money thought it might go.
Do you think this is happening, just in your opinion, more than we know? Sort of like steroids back in the day, where everyone's like, you know what, there's a lot more people on steroids than you think. People were saying this in baseball and even in fighting. Do you think this type of stuff is happening and sometimes it just doesn't get noticed or caught?
Yeah. And ultimately, these are some of the difficulties, right? Like there's David Purdum's doing a great job at ESPN investigating a lot of college basketball, right? Because college basketball, there's so many teams. A lot of these sports books, they're not making odds on, Loyola Marymount versus whomever. They're just putting that out to a third-party service who's giving them odds. They don't necessarily know exactly what it should be. So it's a lot easier to manipulate those, and we've seen that obviously with college athletes. Now they are getting paid, but not every college athlete's getting paid. So there's a lot of room, especially in college, which I think is why it's good that they have eliminated in some states player props for college athletes, right? Like, should a Duke forward you be able to bet over under 15.5 points in a November game? You probably don't really need that, And so the handle that you're losing from not having that, it is much, much better to not have that handle than have some sort of scandal because you offered that.
There's actually, it's not the same, it's not apples to apples, but there's a correlation between the college athlete and the UFC athlete, because people who may not be UFC fans will be like, UFC, like that's the NBA, the NFL. But a guy like, Dulgarian isn't making a ton of money.
They're not getting paid a lot.
I understand he recently had a kid. He was living in a trailer. Like he's fighting in the major leagues, but he's not getting millions of dollars, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. So someone comes in and gives him an opportunity, just saying hypothetically, those are the types of people that would do this,
100%. And also that's the concerning part about the NBA ones, right? Is Terry Rozier made over $100 million in his career, like Chauncey Billups, made plenty of money, Hall of Fame player. So that's the hope, is those are outliers versus, yes, generally you're worried about the Jonte Porters, right? The minimum guys making less, who maybe this is one shot, no one will be hurt, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've seen how that ended up for Jonte Porter. But I think, to your point, the athletes not getting paid as much, referees. That's where some of the concerns
that too.
are.
Yes. There's been some questionable calls. Regarding the NBA, when do you think we'll get a resolution to this?
I mean, they still got the whole Clippers saga with Kawhi Leonard, right?
Jeez. Yeah. And is the FBI investigating that?
That one I'm not sure.
Okay. But like this like, because Billups is still technically the coach, right? He's like been suspended, or I guess
he's on leave.
On leave.
Yeah.
And I guess they can't fire him unless they know. Could this take years though? And he's just going to be lingering on leave?
I mean, I can't imagine it would be before the end of the season.
Okay.
But it's hard to know ultimately.
Yeah. And this is a huge crisis for the leagues, right? Because their integrity is called into question.
Yeah. And Billups wasn't named. So he was named in the poker indictment.
Right.
He was charged. He was not named in the sports betting indictment, but there's a co-conspirator 8, whose description basically matches up with Chauncey Billups. At the time, he was also a coach of the Trailblazers and basically told an associate that they were sitting all these players before a game, and that associate bet against them and they got killed by the Bulls. So whether or not that means he's looking to make a deal and that's why he wasn't named, it's unknown. And again, all this is still alleged. But
wait, why would they name him for the poker charge, but not the? Why is it?
I think maybe in case there's a deal to be made or something in that case. But yeah, I'm learning more.
What a world
it's like,
here.
It's like I wasn't a lawyer, but I stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night. That's what I feel like.
This is
the
all
last
you're
couple
doing
weeks.
now. Yeah. It's like us when there's like a big steroid scandal. Now all of a sudden I'm talking about like all this stuff, that I know really nothing about.
Right.
But you're thrust into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, far from an expert, but have these sportsbook sources. So at least try and figure out as best you can kind of what happened. And as well with sports betting now, it's in every state, right? And there's different books in different states. And so all of a sudden, a puzzle that was just in Nevada is now in all these different places. And so that's also what makes some of these things easier in a way, is that if you are attempting to do something like this, you now may have someone who's in Kentucky and Illinois and New York and New Jersey and all these other states. It's just very different than if it was illegal or only in Nevada.
Right.
You can get down a lot more money potentially. Obviously, it's going to be flagged if you get down all of this at the same time. Are
they freaking about this, or is this just another day in the world of sports gambling?
I think it's I don't know about freaking. I think at a certain point, some of this stuff, like you said, generally goes on. I think some of it, probably more of it, has happened before legalization than we would know of. But at a certain point, when you talk about tipping points, it's just public perception, right?
Yeah.
We just had Shohei Ohtani a couple years ago. We had some MLB players now with the first pitch where they threw it outside the zone, way outside the zone. And then there was some odd betting about people betting the first pitch. Again, whether or not you should be able to bet on the first pitch of innings is different. Now we have the NBA indictment. Now there's UFC, right? We're hitting a lot of leagues, and people just connect point A, we legalize sports betting, to point B. Now it seems like there's scandals in every sport, and that's when you start to get, I believe there was a Senate committee who sent a letter to Adam Silver basically saying, hey, we want to kind of see what you did with this investigation. Because remember, the NBA investigated Terry Rozier and nothing came of it. So I think we'll start to see probably a little more of that. And just there are a lot of eyeballs on this because there's a lot of money involved. And ultimately, if you don't have integrity in the sports, you don't have anything. And that is the number one thing with legalization that everyone says, well, all the sports leagues were against it, is just we have to have integrity or else.
They were against it, all of them, even though it brought so much money.
Right. So they were against, now you could say publicly versus privately, but they were suing New Jersey. So
got it.
Publicly, they were against it until it was legal, and then all of a sudden some deals were signed.
Right. Last thing for you, and this has been amazing. Thank you. Really appreciate it. What is the next step for this particular case? And you may not know the answer, but like what can we expect as far as, not from the UFC perspective, but from like the sports books perspective?
So basically the sports books kind of hand over essentially the evidence, right, that they have, which is, hey, at this time we took this bet. Here's, he or she's betting account. This is kind of what they usually have. It was at this time, this amount, and here's why we flagged it. And then they hand that over basically to the, like I said, local officials, the integrity monitors. They have to work together and kind of piece together all this, what happened when, then like we said, the alert went out, which sportsbooks were open, and all the sportsbooks, I think, are then also going through the integrity monitors and through the law enforcement. So there's a lot to sort out, and then at some point you kind of, they'll come to a conclusion, but it tends to be a lot of right now and then a long wait, right? Because it's not like this is going to be on Thursday.
Right.
We're going to have a resolution. Obviously, the leagues want everyone to be talking about the leagues and the action as they should. Something will eventually come out of it will have some resolution, but I don't think it's going to be anytime particularly soon.
Okay. Ben, fantastic stuff. Where can people see more of your work?
Yeah, just at Yahoo Sports.
I've
We got
heard of
a
it.
new, yeah, the new betting hub and
There is a betting hub up there.
betting hub, yeah, betting
Okay.
links. We're just trying to match your numbers. That's what we're doing. We got
Listen.
a little ways to go.
By the way, are you guys covering this today, or are you just leaning on us? Are we taking over the betting page too today?
This will be, I think, it'll be a video. Will be our.
Is this
our
top
coverage,
story? Is
and
this top
so-
story?
Yeah, yeah.
This
good
is story
put-
number one
we
on the
can-
betting page.
We can put it up there.
Or-
I haven't written a newser yet on it.
Okay.
I think I'll.
Look at
I'll
you,
probably have
ESPN
that,
guy,
so.
using the newser terminology.
What can I say?
I love it.
Old habits
Ingrained
die
in you.
hard.
I heard Shohei was maybe they're gonna give the World Series or no, none of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Retroactively.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem.
You can now walk like 100 feet back to your desk. What a great thing. There he is, everyone. Ben Fawkes.
Thanks, man.
Not to be confused with the great Ben Fawkes. One day we're going to get you two in the same room.
Brothers from another mother.
Yes. He's been all over this as well. Thank you so much, my friend. Great insight. So now we've covered this from many different angles. Got GC's insight, got Ben's insight, my reporting as well. Great stuff. Who, me? Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.